What's hindering you? What are some of the hindrances which are such mighty factors in the prevention of the fine fruition and realization of life? Well, let us see. Not wanting to pay the price is one. Wanting a magic formula, self-deception. One of the greatest hindrances I know to the self-realization of life is the hindrance of self-deception. Not having things straight ourselves. Not seeing life in terms of totality and wholeness. Governed by our prejudices. Inspired by our passions. Going through life with a twisted sense of value. Always thinking that someone else is to blame. That society is in conspiracy. That some external force or influence is responsible for it all. Self-deception. I'm going to give you a few simple suggestions for gaining happiness and overcoming the things that hinder and prevent a right adjustment with life. First, know thyself thoroughly. Second, be thyself. Third, believe in thyself. Fourth, believe in others. Put yourself under the microscope of yourself first before you do another thing. Be your true self under all conditions, and you will find creeping into yourself a sense of poise, of peace, and of mastery. You are you, and no one else. You know no one anywhere at any time is ever a complete failure until he admits it himself. And then respect others. Have confidence in them. Believe in them. You cannot be happy and at ease without having confidence both in yourself and in others. These four things, knowing yourself, being yourself, believing in yourself, and believing in others, will start you off on the way to happiness, which is your right. How do I know? Because I've tried it and it works. I believe that every individual has within himself an undefeatable something. Life was made, designed, created to be a victorious experience. The great creative intelligence, which is behind the entire objective of our modern world, knew just what he was doing when he whispered your soul into reality. Believe in your best self and be your best self all the time. One door never closes, but another opens. One who is a successful writer said that at the beginning of his career, when he had but little money, he felt the need of an office of his own, but he could not afford one. He decided to see a Mr. Borden, the owner of the new building across the street. Perhaps there would be some way of acquiring an office in exchange for some service he might render him. They came to terms immediately. Mr. Borden needed someone to answer calls when he went out, and the writer could use his office in exchange. He had expected a man as rich as Mr. Borden to be much less human. What he did not know was that Mr. Borden at that moment was in the process of losing everything he had. One day, when Mr. Borden came into the office, he remarked on how depressed the writer seemed. "Oh," said the writer, "everything has gone wrong. One rejection after another. I feel as if the world has come to an end." "Listen to me, young fellow," said Borden. "One door never closes without another door opening. I know that sounds like an old saw, but I give you my word it is true. You can stake your life on it. So don't worry. If one door seems closed, you'll find another opening to give you entrance. The writer said, in the depths of my despair, it was difficult for me to accept the truth of those words, but one small idea kept recurring to me. I'd wanted an office, and I had not had the money to rent one. But there had been another way to get the office without money. That seemed to be in keeping with the other door theory. It was not long before another door did open for me in my work. I discovered, he said, a type of story that I could write and sell constantly and profitably. And the other door would have opened whether I worried about it or not. And I had wasted time and grief worrying about it needlessly. Angela Morgan tells us in her poem, despair is never right. No human soul would deem it right or fair ever to yield to darkness or despair. I'm going to attempt to tell you how to be a likable person. Make up your mind to live today to the fullest. Try to make the highest moment permanent. Try to give everyone whose burden is greater than yours a lift. Be generous and tolerant, considerate and kind, forbearing and magnanimous. Keep your mind open to truth and responsive to the world's best thought and to the best you know. Look forward, not backward. Look up, not down. Make the most of what opportunities there are, and never whine at the lack of them. Be a man before you are a lawyer, or a doctor, or a merchant, or a worker, or a manager, or whatever may be your occupation or profession. Face life with a smile, and keep a stiff upper lip, no matter how depressing conditions may be. Have confidence in the power to conquer every difficulty and reach the goal of every worthy ambition. Make life yield the highest possible service by being faithful to the duties of each day, trying to complete everything attempted. Be honest in every transaction, and let every friendship ring true. Hold a helpful, accommodating attitude toward those about you. Fulfill to the best of your ability the obligation to be noble and loyal to your highest ideal. This is the task that comes to each of us every morning. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Put your faith in the growing, evolving, creative, affirmative fact of truth, not ignorance, not superstition, not fear, but in growth, development. One person gets nothing but discord out of a piano, another gets beautiful harmony. No sensible person blames the piano for the noise or gives it all the credit for the music. Life is much the same. The possibility of discord is there, and the possibility of harmony is there also. Our principal business is to learn to play it correctly. When we do it well, it will give forth harmony. If we play it carelessly, it will give forth discord. Life is not at fault. It may be an enchanting holiday if one touches the notes aright and is in tune. Do you remember these lines? He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. Learn to laugh at yourself. Well, as long as you can see the incongruity in your own life and laugh at it, there is little danger of your losing true perspective, of getting bogged down in the marshes of extreme self-concern. Humor springs from the contrast between the littleness and the greatness of things. The ability to see these contrasts implies the ability to measure their relative importance. And your sense of values depends on your ability to discern that there is something humorous in nearly every situation. A good laugh often will jar you out of a mental fog. Of course, it may be that physical weakness is affecting your lack of balance, and if you cannot find the means to chase out discouragement and unhappiness, maybe you should consult a good physician. Or it may be that you just need the tonic of getting out of doors, engaging in some sport, breathing more fresh air into your lungs. That strengthening of body, the invigoration that comes from making contact at first hand with the inspiring elements of nature, cannot help but freshen your perspective and tend toward the development of sound values of existence. Don't lose the broad perspective, which is your anchor. If you center your life in one person, believe in him, sacrifice for him, depend on him utterly, you may well permit your ideas about him to go beyond the limits of reality. You may develop the idea that he is perfect with no faults, and the shock will be overpowering when you discover feet of clay on your idol. You may surround that person with an unnatural importance, and thereby destroy your own sense of proportion. You must try to build up a compassionate understanding of human frailties to develop true friendship or true and lasting love. You cannot accomplish this understanding if your perspective is limited to one person or thing, whether that person be someone else or yourself. That is why I say, learn to laugh at yourself. Don't permit your work, your striving for material success, to overwhelm other interests, to become an obsession. What does it profit if you gain the pot of porridge and lose your birthright? Time to live. In my study, there is a little brown book of some 143 pages called Time to Live. Cove Hambidge wrote it, and his subtitle was Adventures in the Use of Leisure. And one of the chapters he devoted to time and the heart. He referred one back in memory to the days of childhood, and how we used to get together for hours and for whole days of intimate companionship with our young friends, not just once in a while, but almost every day in the year. There were rambles through the woods, or fishing together, or trips to the old swimming hole. Who can all remember making things in the cellar, or playing in the attic, or baking potatoes around a fire? Companionship was close, and it was unthinkable to get along without seeing our friends constantly. Then in college, though these particular activities were left behind, companionship still remained the dominant thing. We not only had the organized activities together, such as putting on shows, getting out the college paper, but we walked together, talked together by the hour. Nothing was settled finally, but we gained immensely in appreciation of each other. We had rich, leisurely friendships. Out of college, we took on responsibilities, became absorbed in the routine of work, grew a crab-like shell of hardness, and though we had friends, we no longer found it possible to be with them very often. There wasn't time. For warm comradeship and hours of talk, we substituted sometimes bridge games or gave parties. And Cove Hambidge contended that in doing this we lost something vastly worthwhile. Sometimes we grow away from friends, but friendships can always be renewed. We need time to live, to develop, and keep the friendships of maturity. During the war, men in the army sat around in barracks or dugouts by the hour, talking. And sometimes men who had been far apart in education and environment discovered a strange, deep likeness and understanding that bound them strongly together. Yes, it requires money to purchase luxuries, but friendship we must purchase with time. It's the struggle that's important. My friend, Dr. Stidger, told of hearing Dr. Joseph Fort Newton tell a story about a certain amateur naturalist who watched an emperor moth slowly making its laborious way from the chrysalis stage. Day by day it struggled, strove, and squirmed its way, trying to emerge from its cocoon. The opening of the cocoon was so narrow that the amateur naturalist decided to give the emperor moth some help from the outside. So he took his penknife and slightly enlarged the opening to make it easier for the moth to emerge. It seemed so harsh a struggle to him that he thought it ought to be ended quickly. Doesn't that remind you of the way some parents seek to shield their children when they are battling through some hard problem? We make it so easy for them. They never know the joy of overcoming, of having definite tasks to do, wood to cut, newspapers to deliver in the early morning hours, or dishes to wash. But in saving them from the hard things of life, we later may discover just what the amateur naturalist discovered. Though the moth ended his conflict earlier and arrived in the world, its wings were imperfect. It could only flutter feebly on the ground and could not fly. And before night, it would either sicken and die, or its natural enemies would have eaten it. It would not be able to battle its own way because it didn't go through the difficult struggle which was necessary to develop large, strong wings. Dr. Stidger said he was taken one time by George Gray Barnard to see Barnard's beautiful statue, The Struggle Between the Two Natures. They went to the Metropolitan Museum of New York City together to view the statue. Two glorious white marble male figures, exactly alike. One lying on the earth, the other standing on top of the lower figure, with one foot on his thigh and one on his neck. They were like two wrestlers. No man could tell the difference in the figures. Mr. Barnard said that this was what he intended to say. It's the everlasting struggle that goes on between our lower or physical nature and our higher or spiritual nature. Here are my 12 rules for a successful life. 1. Do the unpleasant task first. 2. Stick to the job you are doing until it is done. 3. Keep well rested and get adequate sleep. 4. Be friendly with others. 5. Talk over your real troubles with someone in whom you have confidence. 6. Do not go around looking for sympathy. 7. Forget your small troubles. 8. Look for the cheerful side of things, and above all, keep a sense of humor. 9. Think about something other than your own pains and aches. 10. Try carrying your burdens on your own shoulders. 11. Relax from time to time during the day. 12. And perhaps the most important one of all, believe in yourself and in your life's work. One of the most familiar and most loved passages of the ancient scriptures is the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.